You're looking at an iceberg that hung up in a harbor in Greenland. Amazing scene, signs of warming Greenland. This storm maintained its nice spherical shape as it reached the coast of California, brought with it a lot of rain in California, a lot of snow in Tahoe and the Sierra Nevadas, but 100-mile-per-hour winds. Notice off to the lower right, that's that storm that brought snow and rain to the southwest, much needed relief to the drought conditions there. First rain in the southwest since April, and some decent snow. They need at least two more snows like that to bring the lakes and the rivers back up to their normal averaged height. So I was amazed that this big system moving in maintained its shape. It's kind of pushing east southeast. It didn't flatten out. On the from further out, you can see the system maintaining a nice spherical shape, moving kind of southward, and that looked like definitely we were going to get a repeat of what just happened a few days ago, only a bigger storm, bigger than the one that moved into the southwest and created a lot of snow, even in places like Tucson and outside of Phoenix. Amazing that's that system at the bottom of the screen did that. But this big system moved in, down power lines, incredible winds, lots of damage due to the wind, and this system I was certain was going to inundate Nevada and inundate Arizona and Utah again. And then in just a 24-hour period, it changed shape and changed direction without any noticeable cause. Usually a second system butting up against it would push against it. So that's a big system coming. You can see kind of moving down the coast with even a bigger system approaching Alaska. Both maintain this nice, beautiful, spherical shape that they're supposed to maintain. 90% of the time, these storms are supposed to maintain their shape. Once in motion, supposed to stay in motion. But then something happened. The next day, the bottom of that storm began to flatten out, and amazed me that it would flatten out like that. And the system then started to push a little more eastward and not so much southward. Still, a river of moisture came up through California, drenching a section of California that had already been getting rain for quite some time. But I'm looking for a cause for this giant, massive system to suddenly flatten out at the 5 o'clock position on its sphere, and we could kind of see in different wavelengths a northward push by something. You see the gray clouds. Here it might be a little more visible as blue, but you can see waves pushing north, not east, not south, but north. And not even northeast, but due north. And that looks like, I'm sorry to say this, it sounds crazy, but it sounds like VLF harp-like frequencies that are, first of all, kind of taking the water and getting rid of it, evaporating it, vaporizing it is probably a bad term, but you also pushing this storm further north and keeping it from getting into the southern parts of the United States, which have suffered the worst drought, the worst heat in the last 5 or 6 years. Again, this is the Pacific Ocean. Notice how much of the Pacific is devoid of water. The very bottom of the screen is supposed to be an equatorial belt of water. It does not exist. The equatorial belts are actually, when they do exist, are most of the time traveling left to right from west to east, which is the wrong direction. The equatorial belt of water is supposed to be going from right to left because of the way the Earth rotates. But that system up the top, look how flat that edge became. What can take a sphere and in one night flatten it out and change direction? That's amazing. And then we go over to the east coast. This is Canada. Directly at the top of the screen, you can barely see Greenland covered by moisture. But there were 3 low pressure systems all commingling with one another, driving this, I guess you can call it a jet stream, pulling water up the east coast. East coast has been getting quite a bit of rain this year, for a change. But you can see these 3 systems all lined up and formed a vertical arrangement, and took that equatorial belt of water and shoved it right up into England and France. England and France have been getting above their average rainfall. France has actually suffered some pretty severe, deadly flooding this year, and it hasn't seemed to slow down. As of today, that vertical line of low pressure spinning systems, the top system is coming back around, going to try to make another triangle. But look at that wall of water going off into that blackened out area. I don't know why it's blackened out up there, but all that wall and that patch or that wall of water headed right into Great Britain and France. And my other computer, we're pulling some data off of it. We're going to be pulling up some of our old Mars videos, Mars anomalies, and showing those to people. We had some stuff that hadn't been shown, so stay tuned for that. People call them faces in the clouds, faces on Mars, but here are some faces in the clouds looking down on Earth. These are some faces that I have picked out for your enlightenment and your enjoyment and entertainment. But they're all kind of creepy looking, but we all know they're just there accidentally, by happenstance, by coincidence. And then we look over to the Atlantic. Almost the entire Atlantic Ocean doesn't have a cloud. The moisture traveling over the Gulf of Mexico is cleared out. The Gulf of Mexico, the Caribbean, and the Atlantic, once again, devoid of clouds. Those vortexes at the top of the globe are stealing water and drawing that water up to the north, which is going to hasten the ice melt. And the way that things are going on this globe and in the country of the United States especially, everybody's distracted by all the drama, the COVID especially, and also the political situation as it stands. And while we're divided and debating each other, we're missing out on really what's really going on, what's really happening. And I view all of that as a distraction. The political part, the COVID, I really think it's quite obvious what's happening. And the way that people who are talking about COVID against mainstream are getting censored at the drop of a hat, and there's dozens and dozens of people getting kicked off, pulled off of YouTube, thrown out of Facebook, amazing, Twitter. They're all just not tolerating any free speech in a free speech country.